Hello, today we have Mary with us, and she's from Sensible Woo. And thank you for joining us, Mary. I wanted to
Thanks.
introduce you and also ask you to tell us a little bit about your business and what you do.
Hi, thanks for having me today. My business is called Sensible Woo, and I like to mix the technology with the woo-woo because I feel like our emotions go into our technology. So I basically help online business owners systematize and optimize the back end of their business through software and also sort of more of the analog systems, like the human side of what we do with our clients. So we have a lot of fun with that. We work a lot on Post-its, as you can see behind me. And I do that on purpose because I find that I'm an empath and I work with a lot of other empaths, and it means that whatever energy is around us that we're feeling from other people, we tend to take it on. And it's really easy to kind of leave your body, go up into your headspace and just sort of escape. And it's something that I have struggled with my whole life. And so I work with a lot of other people who have the same struggle. And this simple act of touching a Post-it note and moving it around keeps you in your body. It's really interesting. It's really fascinating. So instead of just planning it out like in Asana or Trello or writing it out, like actually having a Post-it note and just moving it around does huge wonders for getting unstuck. So,
Okay,
yeah.
interesting.
That is interesting. I've always wondered, sometimes it does feel good like to have a planner that you write in rather than on your phone. And it always just is more satisfying also with like a to-do list to check things off.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I'm such a digital girl. I joke, I'm like half Android and I love my technology. I love it. I'm an early adopter. I'm on everything. I play with everything. But there is something about analog tools that really, really helps when it comes to like thinking about big business concepts, or what I call putting on my CEO pants. So I need to put those pants on. I'm like, no, I grab a pen and paper, and it really does something for me. So I teach that a lot to my clients.
Well, that makes me feel good to hear that because I'm a little old school.
I know.
Tell us what you define woo as, since it's in your business name.
Yeah, so woo is something I feel like we all have. I feel like all of us have intuitions, and we make a lot of intuitive decisions on the regular. Everything from like daily social activities to actual business decisions. There's a lot of interviews you'll hear with people, big names. Marie Forleo is a really good example. She brings it into her conversations a lot. You'll hear her say things like, the Excel spreadsheet said blah, 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 but my gut told me to make this decision and it totally worked. And you'll hear it a lot from a lot of entrepreneurs. And the woo for me really started with doing tarot and Akashic Records readings for clients. So your Akashic Records are your soul records in short. And I use the tarot as like a visual, again, a physical medium that keeps me present. And in the conversations I was having with clients getting readings, just the law of gravitational energy, most of them are small business owners. And then they would ask me business system questions in the middle of their reading. And I'm like, okay, if you want to talk about your launch, like we don't need cards for this. And I started to see like the two things went together, and eventually the system that I teach now called Digital Feng Shui kind of rose out of that. So I took traditional Feng Shui, which is, optimizing the energy of your physical spaces, like moving your furniture to certain areas, that kind of thing. And I sort of bastardized the heck out of it. And because I really feel like inside our computers, we have a digital house, and most of our digital houses need a lot of TLC. So and during busy seasons, like I'm in a particularly busy season right now, and sometimes the house gets a little messy, but we always have a day where we like go back and clean it up and take care of things. So I found a way to help my clients wrap their brains around all these bits and bytes that for some reason I communicate very easily with, but that's not the case for everybody. So when you're running an online business, it can get really frustrating. Like, you've got all these things flying around, and then you close the lid on your laptop and you're like, I don't know what happened to it. Like, I don't know what's going on in there. And so I have a way for people to compartmentalize it so they can, pay attention to things that maybe they hadn't paid attention to before, like security around their intellectual property or access to their systems. That's usually a big one.
Yeah, interesting. What adjustments have you made in your business in the last couple of months?
Oh my goodness. So I've had lead generation like I've never seen before, which is exciting, right? But there's always like two sides to a coin. So I actually went through and counted I've had 85 conversations since we've been in shutdown. And it's been really amazing, but was also a great exercise in learning the boundaries of my own energetic like capacity. And also it gave me so much data on like, what are my ideal clients really thinking and feeling when crisis hits, more or less, like all the pretenses just naturally drop. So like the bright, shiny, happy face kind of goes away because there's just no space for it. And so people were really willing to talk about like, these are the problems I'm having. This is what's going on for real right now. The things that they had kind of been glossing over or pretending about, they couldn't do it anymore. And so we had a lot of really honest conversations, and it helped me, you know, retool a lot of the things that I was offering. I birthed an online meetup during this time, kind of like how you guys are doing. You know, you started this coffee and cocktails conversation series, like, so really creative things have come out of it, which I think is really interesting. And I tend to be very Pollyanna about things in general in life, like sometimes to a fault. And so for me, I'm always like, what's like the happy place I can go to? And so I've just kind of been taking myself to those areas and not letting things where I was like, I was going to do this thing, let that kind of hold me down. It's been a good place to be in.
It's nice to hear that people are being vulnerable, because that's hard for, you know, business people to really be honest and be vulnerable. So it's nice that they're doing that with you. It's refreshing to hear.
Yeah. And you know, I think that all of us need someone or some place where we can go talk, not necessarily just to like vent. I feel like you can kind of vent anywhere these days, and it's not because it's not productive, right? Like you can go on social media and just be like, bleh, and have your verbal vomit time and like get it out. And there's a time and a place for that. And then there's also a time and a place for, you know, how do I pick my booty up, dust it off, and keep going? You know, like the Beyonce song, like how do I do that? and you need like a safe place where you can explore that. And it's been really interesting watching folks go through, either they kind of want to be told what to do, or they're like, show me how. And there seems to be, you know, a real like push and pull between that right now. So I'm real curious to see how that continues to shake out as we all sort of get back into whatever the new normal will be. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like you're pivoting and adjusting and adapting really well. What advice do you have for other business owners who may be feeling stuck right now or overwhelmed, and maybe they have some time now to clean up their, you know, computers or get kind of more feng shui in their digital life? What advice would you have for even for us, for example?
Yeah, I think it's a great time not to overdo things. You know, it's so tempting. I've seen people go kind of to the extreme with decluttering their closets right now too, like physical things. And it's not like you have to gut everything and make it perfect. There's this thing about perfection that we have that I think is really holds us back more than we realize. And so it's not about making something perfect. It's about, where do I draw the line in the sand that starting today forward, I'm going to do this differently. And you do the differently from that day forward. And then whatever was behind that line, you go and bring forward the things that you know you're going to need from that day forward. So like, let's say you have a project that hasn't died, you know, make sure that you pull all the assets for that project forward into the new way that you operate. And then the other stuff can sit in the bucket. And as life calls it forward, you can go look for it in that bucket, but you don't have to make the bucket look perfect. That's something that I teach a lot with my clients when we work on backlogs. So it's really tempting to want to like go back and tag every single photo with metadata. And like, sometimes it's just not possible, and it's not really worth it either. It's not worth the expense of doing that. There are some things that are meant to just sort of be what they were and leave it and be okay with that. And then the more important thing are the assets that are going to move you forward into whatever's coming up next. That way you can devote your energy to that. I find that if you are still trying to be perfect about everything in the past, your energy's leaking, you know, it's leaking into something that just doesn't hold true anymore. And that's a big part of the woo part, right? So really like, where is your energy going, and where do you like intentionally choose to focus it? And it it's totally true with what's going on in your email inbox, what's going on in the files in your computer. And basically just having that, like, that mental line, I think, is more important than anything that's actually happening.
Yeah, that's good advice. I can definitely see that. On your website, and I've heard you talk before, I was curious, what can we all do right now to be harmonious?
Oh, right now is such a good time to really look at systems. So sometimes people are like, I don't even know what a system is. And I like to think of systems like, my analogy is usually doing the laundry. So, when you do the laundry, like, you wear your clothes are dirty. They go in the hamper or something, I hope. And then you take that and you carry it over to your washer, and you have a way of doing your laundry, right? Like, you put in the detergent, you put in your clothes, you hit the buttons, then you put it in the dryer, and then you fold your laundry. That's a system. And so you really want to think about, in terms of, for business owners in particular, in terms of the projects and the work that you have coming down your pipeline, what system do you want to have in place? Like, if that was your laundry, how would you do the laundry? And to be able to map that out a little bit can be very helpful. So that's something that I teach, but it's also something that you can also figure out on your own if systems come naturally to you. But I feel like knowing the procedure and the process of things, kind of like our alphabet, like, there's A and then the letter B and then the letter C, knowing what your alphabet is can also be really useful.
And by having that system in place, you're saying that brings the harmony of the tie-in of everything together.
Yeah, well, what it does is it gives you some emotional freedom. It gives you space. If you are feeling chaotic or overwhelmed, it's like having an elephant in the room. Like, you can't think right. You can't make good strategic decisions. And, the word pivot is, like, so overused right now, but I'm, like, so sick of hearing that word right now, but it is true. I mean, there is a lot of pivoting going on. Right. And I think the reason why it's become annoying for us is because people are struggling with the notion of, like, what does it mean to pivot?
Yes.
And pivoting is less about putting out a full offer and filling your course and killing it in the revenue department. It's more about, how do you adjust so that the way you show up for your clients matches where they're at right now. So, and being able to systematize how you do that means that you're not doing everything so manually. It means that the actual pivot really does happen. It happens faster and easier. And anything that you can do that takes manual work off your plate, like, all the better, right? Kind of like when we've set up appointments to chat, it always goes through my Acuity scheduling calendar. We don't email back and forth 5 times, like, are you free on this time? Oh, no, wait, something happened. And if you have to change your appointment, you can take care of it yourself.
That's something so simple like that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Checks, all those little tasks add up.
Mm-hmm.
They really, really do.
Especially when you're a small team,
right.
You don't have a huge team of, don't have a secretary or somebody that's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been talking with a lot of parents right now, and, and it's so hard with the kids being home. And I was in a relationship where we were homeschooling. Obviously that's not my situation now, but I felt like I did COVID for 4 years with a little one. And, I was running a business full time. I was playing full-time stepmom, and there's something that happens with systems that can really help, but they don't sort of magically happen. You have to put the intention into them. You have to think about them, and you have to decide, how do I want this to work? How does this function for me? And how does it function for my clients? And then when you find that balance, the automation really starts to happen. But I find, just kind of like with these calendars behind me, whenever I teach a system to somebody else, even like these planning calendars, I always say that it takes about 90 days, so about a quarter of the year. So if you work in sprints, in quarters, you can think about 1 quarter is really about figuring out, how does this work? So you're going to try a system. Let's say you set up Acuity scheduling, and you're going to put your settings the way you think you want them, and then you're going to really use it. consistently all the time. And you're going to find that it's going to break a couple times. It's not going to function the way you expected. Or maybe your clients don't like your appointments delivered to them in this particular way. You're going to have to make a lot of tweaks and changes. And in about 90 days time, it settles down, and then the thing really starts to run after that. But I think a lot of times we get frustrated with our tech tools because we think that just because it says automation, that it's going to be like that from day one. And the fact is, it's like, we kind of have to settle into them just a little bit more.
That makes sense. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just like when technology companies release an app or a software update. You don't really discover the bugs until it's out and you're using it, and then you figure out what's working and what's not working. And I think that's probably where people do get frustrated, and they probably just give up.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't working, I don't like it, done, instead of giving it that 90 days or.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So we've all been limited on what we can, go and buy in the store, or, we've had to figure out what is essential and what's non-essential. What have you discovered during this quarantine time has been something that you just can't live without?
My cat. I can't live without my cat. We had a conversation about cats and borrowed dogs. But yeah, I have found that having my little animal companion is just seriously the best thing ever. And I mean, I know it might sound silly, but
not at all.
I love being able to work, and he's like sleeping in the window or like wanders by. Like, it's really cute. And I find that just knowing, like, believing in my foundation too, I think that that's maybe the most important thing, like having the belief that, like, not doubting, like, I know I have a really quality offer. I know I have great clients. I know that I deliver above and beyond. And then just kind of holding on to that, and then being able to be free, creatively free beyond that, to try something. So I put out a couple webinars in this time and had really good response. I doubled my email list. Like, wow. I mean, crazy things happening, right? And just by knowing that, like, I know my stuff, I know I'm really good at it. Like, I just put out a kind of like a white paper and a Zoom alternatives survey comparison report thing. And I've picked up like almost 50 email subscribers, and I just put it out last week, so, but it was fun for me, right? Like, that might not be fun for you. It's fun for me to do things like that. And the fact is like, other people in the world have been looking for something like that because, they're having problems with Zoom, or they just don't like it, or they just want to know what are my other options.
Right.
And so I know that I can show up for them in that way. And so that's been really fun to have that creative time. But just like we were talking about before we hopped on the recording, for me, another big thing has been making space. So with the 85 conversations, there wasn't a lot of space for me in that time. And so when I realized that the conversations had a nice stopping point on the calendar, I took my QD calendar and I just simply closed out availability in my coffee chats link. And I knew that the people who really wanted to still talk to me would send me an email, and that happened twice. And so I made appointments with those folks. And other than that, though, it's given me space and time now to breathe and create a report like that Zoom alternatives report. So in the space of a week, I was able to finally turn that around, and then look, there's results, So I think that also helps. Just kind of, it continues to feed that positive flywheel, that positive fire,
Yeah, keep it moving.
I love that. And is there a brand or a business? I know the word pivot is overused, but is there a brand or business that you've been impressed by how they've adjusted or what they've been up to during this period?
I mean, I know it sounds cheesy, but I feel like everybody's kind of been doing that in a really interesting and beautiful way. Like, I was watching how you guys put out your conversation series. Like, that's a beautiful example of that. I've been watching some of my clients take real big, like, mental and emotional leaps forward, and they might not have shipped it yet, but the fact that I know that they have gotten over a mindset barrier is like huge. I mean, that's the biggest part. But I think the thing that I found most humorous lately was My parents are both like about 80 years old, and I helped them get on their very first Zoom call with their financial advisor. And then afterwards, as a thank you, my dad's like, can we go through Chick-fil-A and we'll have lunch and I'll buy you lunch. And so I took them, we went through the Chick-fil-A drive-through, and, they already have like excellent customer service, and their drive-through has always been also very efficient too. But I hadn't been through their drive-through in quite a while, and certainly not since the shutdown. And so the line was really long. I have never been through a Chick-fil-A drive-through faster. Wow. And just the systems that they had set up, of course, my system mind is like looking at everything from that perspective. And I thought, this is really impressive. Like, this is amazing. So I would encourage people just go through the Chick-fil-A drive-through line, go get yourself breakfast, and go and look at it from a business perspective. Not like, yeah, I'm going to get my chicken minis, but really look at the experience as a customer and notice that like your customers go through a drive-through with you too.
Yeah.
And if they were going through a drive-through, like, how enjoyable and seamless would that be? Like, my dad's in the passenger seat going, wow, that was amazing. That was so impressive. And he's telling them like at the drive-through window, like, you guys are just impressing me so much. And they're just delighted, but they're doing their jobs and they're following a certain procedure and they're excelling at it. And, the food was hot and the price is good. And we were of a drive-through line that was wrapped around a block in like less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
So I think things like that really impressed me lately. I've seen other businesses really struggle with the idea of like, what, you mean I have to change how I wanted to do it? And I think that's where we get into trouble as service providers, is we have a vision where we're like, I wanted to do it like this, and it looks like this, and that was my vision, and I wrote it down on my vision board, and gosh darn it, I'm not going to give it up. And it's like, you got to let go. Like, you have to learn to let go and be able to just adjust, and sometimes the adjustments are so small. They're so small. I saw a lot of people really resisting getting onto Zoom at the beginning of the shutdown. And of course now they're like, wait, I got to get better at it. And, my response at the beginning of the shutdown was, none of this is new. Like, Zoom has been around a very long time.
Yeah.
And automated calendars have been around a very long time. So have websites, so has social media, so has your email newsletter. Like, everything's been around. It didn't just pop up overnight, It's just that you don't have the excuse anymore of saying, I'll meet you at the coffee shop, because you didn't want to take the time to set up the system to do it.
Right.
And so I think that's where it's been hard, because emotionally, if you've resisted it, that resistance is caught up, and you're feeling kind of stupid, or you feel a little guilty, or you just don't want to look incompetent in front of other people, but the best time to start is, today, and to know that you're not alone. And now is the most forgiving time ever on the planet. Yeah. And probably ever will be again for a very long time, to make all your mistakes. Yeah.
Everyone's been very helpful, and understanding that it's a learning curve right now for a lot of people, like you said.
Yeah. And it's a great time to be on the learning curve with everybody. Like, I've been on a learning curve with a lot of things too. So, and I love technology, but I recently, just in the past week, migrated off of Zoom into another service called Any Meeting to improve my call quality and to deal with some security issues. And, there were some meetings that got caught in the crossfire of migrating systems, and it really just wasn't the end of the world. It didn't bring things to a stop. People were still, happy to meet me. and it was, it's real brief. Right. It's just a little bit of discomfort, but sometimes we avoid discomfort to get to the better thing, and we stay with a thing that doesn't serve us just because it's a thing we know. Right. So, it's important to kind of just let go, surrender.
Agreed.
You'll be okay.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. How can we support you right now? Where are you spending your time online? Is it Instagram, Facebook?
I'm an Instagram girl. I am at Sensible Woo, and I have a Facebook placeholder account. So if you find me there, you're welcome to follow me. But I spend my time on Instagram because that's where my clients hang out. You can also find me on LinkedIn, and you can also find me at my website, sensiblewoo.com. And I have a newsletter that goes out regularly. I have an online meetup group that's meeting once a month, and got all kinds of exciting things coming up this summer. So good stuff.
Well, we're happy to be a part of it. And thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.